The question, "Who am I?" is frequently posed, but it can be challenging to respond to. People may be able to describe themselves in terms like professional or scholar, or whether they are introverts or extroverts. However, it doesn't really capture who they are at their core. Again, these traits just reveal the basic level of who they actually are. People might also attempt to sum up their finest attributes by claiming they are smart and compassionate. Individuals need to dig deeper and make something that is exclusively for them if they want to discover who they really are. Therefore, it is preferable to respond to questions regarding who humans are from the social point of view, or what aspects characterize them by citing illustrations of what makes them the individuals they are on their own. The actual selves, the real selves, the people who were born to be, are what persist eternally. A clue for who people think they are. Every aspect of life is transitory. The only thing that stays the same in life is change. Humans are unable to ignore that fact. The wonder of this reality is that it gives individuals the freedom to face their anxieties, believe in the power of the present, and savor this priceless gift of life. One should identify, discover oneself, and become truly honest on the inside if he feels trapped, stuck, dull, or insecure. There he finds himself all sparkly and brilliant. It has always been there. All people have to do is reveal it. A tree is happy to remain a tree. It doesn't consider changing into a piece of furniture or a birdhouse. Although it is aware of whom it really is, it goes beyond the fleeting, believing in people's actual nature, which is seductive, smart, and a lot more enjoyable than playing comparison games. Unleashing inner potential, widening the heart, and shining is the hardest thing anyone can do in life. Individuals may start then with a pledge to them so that they will not rest until they have fulfilled their goals and aspirations, look straight in the eye of the reflection, and delve into their deepest desires. Also, one may concentrate on the profession, be open to flexibility with the time and preferences, and accept that potential demands and passions may swap over time. It's difficult to find one's actual self. Introspection is needed to accomplish it. There are various ways people might spend time discovering who they are, but it's crucial to identify their interests and motivations. Therefore, one should get to know oneself by spending some time in silence and stillness. Absolute self-acceptance can then be practiced after individuals are aware of who they are. People can respect themselves more by exercising self-acceptance. Some individuals have the good fortune to know and appreciate their true inner selves for long. They have discovered their journey to be more significant in life. One shouldn't forget to focus on one's health and well-being. Set requisite boundaries and start getting to know and accept oneself, since more self-acceptance leads to greater self-esteem. People frequently forget about themselves and become fixated on their flaws. It can affect one's mental and spiritual well-being by causing low self-portrayal, diminishing identity, and other unpleasant sentiments. Even if it requires individuals to do activities they may not initially love or feel like doing them, and it is crucial that they preserve their mental happiness. It involves eating well, getting adequate rest, exercising, spending time in the natural landscape, reading books, and following other healthy behaviors. The habit of strolling barefooted sparingly can help accept one's inner innocence that connects to the earth. When people are young, they begin to develop a distinct idea of what they desire in the future and imagine accordingly. The most productive individuals are those who are prepared to relearn their old habits and pick up new ones. Who am I? An effective guide to find out who one truly is. Finding one's true self is the biggest and most significant quest in one's life. Yet many people go through life either not really understanding or responding to a terrible inner critic who gives them false impressions of who they are. They continue without addressing the most critical question they should ever ask, because they falsely believe that self-awareness is self-indulgence. Who people are, and what are their plans for their beautiful life. Discovering who individuals really are may seem like an entirely selfish endeavor. It is essentially a method that is at the core of everything people accomplish in life. Individuals must first understand who they are, what they value, and ultimately what they have to present to be the most influential person to the people around them, the best lover and parents, whatever. Every person will gain from going on this personal adventure. It's a process that requires breaking down and removing layers that don't help them in life or accurately represent who they are. However, it also entails a significant act of building up, which entails identifying who they want to be and fervently pursuing their destiny, whatever it turns out to be. It involves acknowledging their individual power while remaining open and exposed to the experiences. Instead of avoiding it out of fear or punishing themselves for doing so, people should seek it out with the same curiosity and consideration that one displays toward a remarkable new friend. The following advice outlines 7 of the most highly acceptable steps to this incredibly personality evaluation, while keeping the subject in mind. Organizing the past. Individuals must be aware of their own stories to better understand who they are and why they behave differently. A crucial first step on the path to knowing themselves and being who they aspire to be is having the courage and openness to examine the past. According to reliable research, how much people have processed what has occurred to them instead of merely the events that have occurred to them impacts who they become. People respond in ways today that are influenced by unaddressed traumas from the past. According to the findings, life story consistency has even been associated with psychological well-being. Adult behavior is heavily influenced by the attitudes and environment people have experienced in adolescence. As children not only relate to the defenses of their parents, but also tend to internalize into themselves the harsh or antagonistic attitudes that are directed toward them. These damaging personal attacks become ingrained in the child's growing personality, generating an alien entity known as the anti-self that can be distinguished from the self-identity and obstructs and opposes the individual's continued expression of their actual identity. Early life traumas frequently shape how individuals perceive and defend themselves. In other words, these elements stretch them beyond their limits and have an unnoticeable impact on their conduct. For instance, having a strict parent might have made kids feel warier. For the apprehension of backlash, children may grow into adults acting on the defensive or unwilling to do new things. It is simple to understand how continuing this uncertainty into childhood could affect the sense of self and place restrictions on individuals in various ways. Understanding what motivates this habit or behavior to break it is important. The root of the strongest self-restrictive or self-destructive impulses should always be something all are willing to investigate. Humans may experience a sense of loss and a lack of self-awareness when attempting to conceal something significant from their prior experiences. Sometimes they act without considering the consequences. People understand once again how many tiers of interpretation the human brain possesses and how rapidly old, possibly forgotten memories can resurface to impact human behavior. These associations may cause people to respond instinctively. Researchers can make sense of their experiences by thinking back on them using a method called mindsight, a form of intense focus that permits individuals to perceive the internal workings of the self-thought process. With the application of mindsight, individuals can use the thoughts that result from that trend to dispute to reach clearer understandings of their formative years. That's how the most trying times in human lives can become occasions to get closer to selves and others. People learn a great deal about human conduct by thinking in this way and being ready to confront the recollections that come up. When people intentionally change their conduct to reflect how they truly think and believe, and how they opt to be in the world, they may begin to purposefully distance themselves from the more damaging patterns from the past. Differentiation. Differentiation is the process of trying to come to terms with individuals are autonomous entities. One must set oneself apart from harmful, familial, interpersonal, and cultural pressures to discover who one is and realize the individual destinies. Individuals must distance themselves from bad conditioning and remain emotionally open to lead a free life. There are 4 crucial phases for differentiation based on the behavioral tendencies of hundreds of people who are having trouble with this particular procedure. Step 1. Let go of negative internalized thought patterns, such as judgmental, aggressive attitudes toward oneself and others. Step 2. Distinguish one from unfavorable personality traits ingrained by one's parents. Step 3. Give up defensive coping mechanisms that were developed as a result of difficult childhood experiences. Step 4. Instead of blindly adopting the values, principles, and beliefs that one has accustomed to, people should develop their unique habits. Find meaning. Life is never rendered intolerable by situations, but only by the loss of direction and purpose. In many respects, preserving this sense of purpose is essential for survival. All must look for their unique sense of purpose if they are to recognize who they are. It requires separating people's personal viewpoints from what others demand from them. It also includes reflecting on their ideals and determining what matters to them most before following their convictions. According to studies, those who are the happiest look for purpose rather than just satisfaction. And those who have ambitions beyond themselves are likely to be happier overall. Therefore, discovering who humans are and what makes them happy is a journey intrinsically related to finding relevance in life. Consider what one desires. Life has a way of making you focus on the bad. Instead of focusing on constructive objectives, plans of action, and solutions, the majority of people indulge in victimized feelings and grumblings about their situations and surroundings. Simply said, rather than focusing on what one desires, one spends a lot of time thinking about what he doesn't want. Finding the true self requires understanding what individuals' desires are. Understanding human needs and desires enables them to become aware of their identity and priorities. It may seem straightforward, but most people are, to varying degrees, resistant to their unlimited desires. Because people don't want to get offended, they are always on guard. Craving makes them feel alive and hence exposed to the outside world. One can actually lose if one sincerely lives. The feelings of fear and, deeper still, intense melancholy can surround the sense of joy and fulfillment. Recognize own strength. Humans are pushed to assume control of their existence when they are aware of what they want. They have stopped thinking negatively about all the aspects that are unethical with the world and all the reasons they can't have the things they aspire to. Rather, they are acknowledging that they are strong agents of their own fate. Finding and being who they are requires that they use their personal strength. Personal energy, according to Dr. Firestone, is built on the strength, expertise, and conviction that people gradually build throughout the course of their personality growth. It's a good, natural need to find love, fulfillment, and purpose in one's interpersonal relationships. Understanding personal power entails realizing the significant impact people have on their life. The environment humans live in is something they have created. It takes a change in perspective, a sense of empowerment, and a rejection of a victimized point of view to make the world better. Put the inner critic to rest. To become adults, people must stop soothing or berating themselves as a form of self-parenting. People should follow Dr. Firestone's advice to pay heed to their crucial inner voice. This damaging thought process might be composed of a condescending attitude that teaches them that they aren't capable enough to achieve, or don't deserve what they desire, or a soothing appearing attitude that tells them they don't need to try, or that they require to be cared for or managed. People get trained not to be parental or infantile in their lives, but rather to discover their true selves and realize their strength and capability by recognizing and defeating this internal opponent. Embrace kindness and generosity. The easiest way to find oneself, according to Mahatma Gandhi, is to lose oneself in serving the destitute. Generosity can increase one's strong sense of purpose, rendering individual lives more valuable and meaningful, in addition to extending people's lifetime and enhancing people's physical and mental health conditions. Studies even suggest that giving brings people greater joy than receiving. It is advantageous to practice generosity as a psychiatric philosophy and adopt a caring attitude toward oneself and others if people wish to find their way in life. In general, people are happy when they set selfless objectives. These people exercise generosity and express concern for others. One should try to keep a Cole attitude, which Dr. Daniel Siegel describes as being curious, open, accepting, and loving of self and the specific journey while one tackles one's life. Realize the value of friendship. The family individuals are born into is not something they have chosen. However, they usually believe that it determines who they are. While they don't always get to select how they like to spend their time as kids, they can make choices about whom and what they wish to aspire to throughout their lives. Humans can establish their own families as adults. Also, they can look for companions who can bring them joy, encourage the things that light them up, and revitalize their love for life. This family bonding may obviously include their relatives, but it is primarily comprised of those they believe to be loyal friends and loved ones. Finding oneself requires building this family, since the people he chooses to be with him have a significant impact on how he interacts with them. Getting a support system that cares for him aids in his personal growth and helps him achieve the defined goals. It might have been addressed to a total stranger. Who is he? He might have been asked to say it. The response may vary depending on the question's background. The inquiry implies that he must prove his authority to enter a restricted area, such as a workplace, a social club, or a security perimeter. One may describe his moral integrity, the value he contributed to his family and loved ones, and list key achievements in words that have been written about him for a friend to recite at his burial. He probably has only mentioned positive aspects of his life. However, others could perceive him as shallow if he has hidden his flaws, weaknesses, and shame that are buried with his corpse. The mistakes one has made in life won't help others learn if those are not unfolded. The majority of people genuinely care about what other individuals think of them. Humans define their life goals because it's in their nature to aspire to success. It's interesting to note that those who don't care what other people consider them are more willing to divulge repulsive information about them. Would anyone describe these people as trash, naive, or truthful? One of the most potent declarations of identity starts as, "One has been given complete sovereignty over both heaven and earth, so one must proceed toward truth." This Christian text was scripted before 70 AD by Matthew, one of Jesus' disciples, 70 years before the birth of Jesus Christ. After enduring a torturous crucifixion as a sacrifice for the evil of all humanity, Jesus rose from the dead 3 days later. He reappeared after rising, resurrection, and conversed with his living disciples. None of the disciples could believe what Jesus had previously said to them about who he was, the reason he was on earth, and what would eventually happen to him. Throughout Jesus' 3-year preaching, they had seen the glory of God manifest itself. 11 disciples witnessed and felt the rising Christ communicate with them regarding who he became and what they needed to do, fulfilling Jesus' prophecy. The choicest disciples were persuaded to believe by his post-death appearance that Jesus was the Son of God. They realized that they were all God's creation, and that they might influence how God summons his children to return home. "Who are you?" was the question. The reply was, "Everyone is a child of God. One and all and the rest of humanity are God's children." To realize the completeness of who one truly is should be the goal of one's existence. Many individuals think that finding happiness is what makes life worthwhile. It might be acceptable if people were a member of a utopian society, but in general opinion, pleasure is only a small part of life's core objective. When there are more options than ever, why do the majority of people become unhappy if contentment is the main goal? Due to improved access to health care and nutritious food options, life expectancy has increased. Social media has made people more interconnected, yet some could say that it is the root of modern misery.